chosen one. God does not publicly embrace what has not been privately proven. And you have been proven. Not in the dramatic moments, in the quiet ones, in the nights you chose honesty over pretending, in the prayers that felt like they disappeared before they reached anywhere, in the love you gave fully to someone who gave you back only a portion, and still, when it ended, you chose not to become hard. That is not ordinary. That is formation. Most people, after enough silence, stop asking. They decide that love was not written into their chapter, and they reorganize their expectations around the absence, calling it wisdom when it is really grief that has nowhere left to move. You did not do that. You held the question open, not because you were naive, because something in you refused to believe that the depth of your longing was a mistake. It was not a mistake. The depth of your longing is the exact shape of what is coming to fill it. What God is releasing over your life is not a general blessing, it is specific. A person matched to you not at the level of your history, at the level of your calling. One who is younger in freedom, lighter in spirit, and who will not simply love you, who will recognize you. There is a difference between those two things. And by the time this ends, you will understand exactly why that difference is the reason everything before this moment was preparation. Before we go any further, I need to tell you what is waiting for you in this message, because all of it matters, and I do not want you to miss any part of it. By the time you reach the end, you are going to understand why the right person has not arrived yet, and it is not the reason most people give you. You are going to receive 2 specific tools for recognizing the right person when they arrive, and for stopping yourself from mistaking the familiar face for the right one. And there is a declaration spoken at the very end of this, specifically over your love life, that I believe will shift something in you that has been still for a long time. Stay for all of it. I want to find you exactly where you are right now. Maybe it is late at night, and the house around you is quiet, and you are here with thoughts that are too heavy to say out loud. Maybe it is early morning and you woke up before anyone else, and for a moment, in that half-awake stillness, you felt it again, that ache, the one that does not have a clean name. It is not exactly sadness. It is not exactly loneliness. It is something closer to the weight of time moving forward, and the question underneath all of it, the one you do not say out loud to anyone, which is simply this: is this really how my story goes? You have been carrying something that most people around you cannot see, not because they do not care, because it is invisible. The kind of weight that does not show up when you are out in the world, the kind you set down when others are watching and pick back up when the room is empty. You have gotten very good at that, and I want to say something about that capacity, because it is not weakness. The fact that you have learned to carry without collapsing, to keep moving through seasons that should have stopped you, that is what God calls proven. But something is shifting right now, quietly, underneath the surface of your daily life. Something is changing, and you may not have had language for it until this moment. The first sign I want to name is this: you have started to feel suffocated in spaces that once felt perfectly fine. Certain conversations that used to be easy have started to feel like they are asking something from you that you can no longer give. Certain friendships, certain familiar dynamics, certain environments, they do not fit the way they used to. Nothing dramatic happened. No fight, no betrayal, no clean explanation. They just started to feel like a size too small. You pulled back quietly, and you are not entirely sure why. Here is what I want you to hear. That pulling back is not a problem. That is your spirit recognizing that you have grown beyond the frequency of what was around you. You are not shrinking. You are becoming more precise about what is allowed, near what God is building in you. The second sign is happening in your sleep. Dreams that are unusually vivid, not always clear in their meaning, but the feeling they leave lingers into the next day. A sense of searching for something. A sense of being almost there, almost at a recognition that has not yet fully landed. You wake up and the feeling stays. like a conversation that happened in a language you almost understand. That is not your mind inventing things. That is your spirit processing what is already in motion in the unseen. The third sign is quieter still. Something has shifted in what you will accept. Patterns you once explained away. Behaviors you once adjusted yourself around. A subtle diminishing of yourself that you once allowed because it felt easier than the alternative. You will not do that anymore. Not with bitterness, with clarity. The line that has appeared in you is not a wall, it is a door. And it is becoming more precise about who is allowed to walk through it. And the fourth sign is the one that is hardest to explain. There is a strange combination of peace and longing existing in you at the same time, and you cannot fully reconcile them. Peace because something in you has settled, longing because something has not yet arrived. Both of them are real. Both of them belong. Peace is not the absence of desire. Peace is what happens when your spirit has learned to trust the process even while the heart is still asking the question. These four things, they are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are signs that you are standing at a threshold. You are at the edge of something new. And your spirit already knows it, even before your mind can name it. And I want you to hear what the Father is saying over you right now. I hear the Spirit speaking this. My child, I have seen every night you carried that ache alone, without telling anyone how heavy it was. I have seen every morning you chose to rise and try again. I have seen the prayers that felt like they were going nowhere, the ones you kept sending even when the silence felt like an answer you did not want. I kept count of every single one of them. Not one was wasted. Not one fell before it was received. And what I have been doing in the silence, that is what I am about to show you. Now, I need to tell you something about where you have been. Because most people misread this season entirely. They look at the waiting, the solitude, the long stretch without a partner, and they interpret it the way the world has trained them to interpret anything painful as evidence of a lack, as proof of something wrong, even, quietly, as punishment for a mistake they cannot identify. I need to say this clearly. It was never punishment, it was preparation. And there is a difference so important that if you miss it, you will misread the entire next chapter of your life. Trees do not bloom in winter. But winter is not the end of the tree. Winter is when the roots go deeper than they ever go in any other season, driving down into the dark, anchoring the tree for the weight of everything that is coming. What looks like nothing from the outside is the most essential work of the whole year. And you have been in winter. But winter is not your address. It is your formation. Here is the first reason the wilderness came. Some of who you were was not actually you. Some of the identity you carried into past relationships, the version that made itself smaller to keep the peace, that accepted half love as though it were the full thing, that redefined what it deserved so many times it forgot what it originally wanted. Some of that was armor, and armor cannot be removed in comfort. It can only come off in a season where the pressure to perform for someone else is completely gone. The person you are becoming right now is not the person who could have received what is coming. That person had to be formed first. Some things had to fall away before the real ones could be found. The second reason is one that not many people talk about, but I believe it with everything I have. You cannot recognize the right person when your frequency is low, when you are still running the old story through everything you see, when every new connection gets filtered through the lens of what went wrong before, when grief is still doing the navigation. It is like trying to read in a room with no light. The words are there. The right person could be standing right in front of you, but you would miss them because you are not yet seeing clearly. This season of solitude was not about keeping you from love. It was about raising the frequency that love would have to match when it arrived. Not punishment, calibration. And the third reason surprised me most when I first understood it. The person who is coming has also been in their own formation. This has never been one-directional. Two spirits are being made ready at the same time, in separate spaces, without knowing each other's names. You have been in yours, they have been in theirs. And there is a timing, a precise divine timing, that cannot be moved without costing you the very thing you have been waiting for. You cannot arrive before they are ready to receive you. They cannot arrive before you are ready to recognize them. There is a woman in Scripture whose story I keep returning to. Her name is Ruth. She lost everything. Her life had been built around her husband, her homeland, her sense of where she belonged in the world. She had every logical reason to go back, to choose safety, to choose the path that was familiar. She chose something else. She chose loyalty to what she believed was right, even when it cost her everything she had known. And what is remarkable is this: she was not searching for Boaz. She was not positioning herself. She was not strategizing about love. She was faithful to her assignment. She was fully present in the field she had been given. And the recognition, the meeting of two spirits that changed her entire story, happened because she was simply being who she was in the place she was called to be. And then there is Jacob, a man willing to wait 7 years for one person, not because he had no options, because he knew, at the level of spirit rather than convenience, that this was the one whose depth answered something in him that nothing easier ever could. 7 years is a long time. But Jacob understood something essential. The right person is worth the specific wait, not any person, the right one. I want to teach you something about a single Hebrew word. The word is yada. In most translations, it is simply rendered as to know. But yada, in its original meaning, goes far deeper than that. Yada means to know completely. To be known in your fullness, not the surface you present, not the version you edit for easier living, but the entirety of what you actually are. Most relationships never reach yada, they reach familiarity. They reach a comfortable, mutual version of each other that has been shaped and softened over time. But yada is what happens when someone encounters the God-given depth in you and says, without hesitation, "This is exactly who I was looking for. This is who I was made to know." God is not sending you someone who will love a curated version of you. He is sending someone who was designed for the yada of who you actually are. Now stay with me, because I have not yet said the most important thing. There is a discovery that researchers stumbled into something they called the recognition frequency, a specific state of the brain that determines whether or not we can actually perceive who is right for us when they are standing right in front of us. I am going to come back to that in part 2 of this message. But before I do, I need to tell you what I believe is the real reason the right person has not arrived yet. And I am warning you, it is not the reason you have been given before. It goes deeper than timing. It goes deeper than strategy. It is something happening inside the mind itself that most people do not even know is a factor. Stay with me for part 2. What comes next will change the way you read your own story. Welcome back. If you stayed through the first part of this message, then you already understand what was happening in the wilderness. Not punishment, precision. You know that Ruth was not searching for Boaz, and that Jacob knew who was worth the specific wait. And you remember that I promised to come back to something, a discovery about what researchers called the recognition frequency, a specific state of the brain that determines whether we can actually see who is right for us when they arrive. I am going to get there. But first, there is something more important, something I believe you need to hear before anything else. I want to name something that most people will not say out loud, because it is uncomfortable, because it is real. Even with everything I just told you about preparation and formation and divine timing, there is a part of you that still wonders. A part that has heard the promise before in different forms and watched it not arrive. A part that held hope open for so long that hope itself started to feel like a liability. And underneath all of that, there is a belief. It is quiet, but it is persistent. It says, I have been through too much. I am carrying too much history. Too much time has passed. Someone younger, someone lighter, someone who has not already been made heavy by life. They would not choose someone who has been through what I have been through. Maybe love like that is not in my chapter anymore. I need to address that belief directly, because that belief, not timing, not divine strategy, not external circumstance, that belief is the real reason the right person has not yet arrived. Here is the truth about that belief. It was formed by a wound, not by wisdom. It presents itself as realism. It disguises itself as maturity, as practical acceptance, as not getting your hopes up. But it is grief dressed up as logic, and grief, when it disguises itself as logic, has the power to block us from receiving what is already being sent. The first thing this belief attacks is your sense of worthiness. It tells you that the version of yourself that deserved the real love, that version existed before all of this, before the divorce, before the years alone, before you learned what heartbreak actually costs, and that version is gone. What is left is not what someone younger and lighter would choose to walk toward. But here is what I need you to understand. Brokenness and becoming are two completely different things. Brokenness is something that happened to you. Becoming is what you chose to do in response to it. The person who is coming is not being matched to what happened to you. They are being matched to what you became because of it, not your history, your calling. And the partner God is preparing was not designed to love you despite who you have become. They were designed precisely because of it. The second thing this belief does is tell you that good things do not stay in your life. That even if love arrived, it would follow the same pattern as before. That something in you causes the right things to leave. And that story, that particular one, is the one I want to address most carefully, because it is the most painful and also the most untrue. What left your life was not the right thing. Every relationship that ended was a necessary ending, not punishment, not evidence of your unworthiness, a necessary clearing. What left had to leave because it was occupying a space that belongs to something entirely different. Holding on to the grief of those endings as proof of what you deserve, that is grief doing math. And grief is not good at math. And I hear the Father speaking this over you right now. I hear Him saying, you are ready. Not because you are without pain, not because you have figured everything out, not because the grief is completely gone. You are ready because you have been faithful with broken pieces. You kept something open that most people would have closed. I see that. I have always seen that. You are ready. You are allowed to want love again. You are allowed to believe that you are not too late for the real thing. You are allowed to refuse the version of yourself that quietly stopped believing. You are allowed to outgrow the grief without forgetting what it taught you. You are allowed to receive something younger and lighter into your life without apologizing for it. And you do not owe anyone an explanation for choosing to remain open. Now, I want to tell you what is shifting right now in 3 specific areas that matter to this season. The first is your frequency. The energy you carry into a room, into a conversation, into your most honest moments alone. That frequency has changed. It is not the same as it was 3 years ago, or even 1 year ago. The grief that once colored everything you saw has cleared in ways you may not have given yourself credit for. And frequency, this is important, is what people feel before they hear a single word you say. It is what the right person will feel the moment they are near you. And what you are carrying right now is cleaner than it has ever been. The spring is not far. The roots you grew in winter are about to matter in ways you cannot yet see. The second shift is in timing. The person who is coming has also been completing something, their own clearing, their own formation in a separate wilderness. There is a convergence approaching, not random, not coincidental, a designed moment when 2 paths that have been running parallel without knowing it begin to move toward each other. You are both almost there, and almost is not far. The third shift is the one I want you to hold most carefully. God does not match accident to intention. He does not send someone who was chosen carelessly into the life of a chosen one who was prepared deliberately. This match was not made by proximity or convenience. It was made at the level of assignment. Your calling has a counterpart, and that counterpart has been shaped in ways neither of you has yet seen, to walk a work with you that neither of you can complete alone. This is not wishful thinking. This is as close to certainty as I am willing to speak over your life. Now, I want to give you two practical things, because everything I have told you is worth nothing if you cannot recognize what is arriving when it arrives. The first tool is something I want you to call the frequency audit. It is 3 honest questions. The first: when you enter a new conversation with someone you do not know, what emotion arrives? First, possibility or defense, not which one you want to arrive. Which one actually does? The second question: when you genuinely imagine being in a relationship, again, a real one, not a fantasy, what shows up first? Openness or exhaustion? Excitement or the memory of what went wrong? The third question is the most honest one of all. Do you believe, actually believe, that the right person would be drawn to who you are right now, not who you were before, not who you are hoping to become, but who you are in this specific season? Your answers to those 3 questions will show you exactly what frequency you are operating from. Not to judge yourself, to know where you are, because you cannot receive clearly from a place that is still blocked by a story that is no longer true. The second tool is what I want to call the recognition protocol. 3 signs that separate the spiritual counterpart from the placeholder. The first sign is the quality of being seen. There is a difference between feeling needed and feeling recognized. A placeholder needs what you provide. The right person recognizes who you are. It does not feel like impressing someone. It feels like being known. Like the full weight of who you actually are is not a burden to them, but something they have been looking for. The second sign is the direction of conversation. With a placeholder, the deepest conversations eventually loop back to the surface, back to comfortable, practical, safe territory. With the right person, the conversation has a natural pull toward meaning, toward purpose, toward the things that actually matter, without either of you forcing it there. And the third sign, the subtlest one, is what happens to your energy after you have been with them. With the wrong person, even good conversations leave you slightly dimmer, slightly smaller, slightly more tired than before. With the right person, even the hard conversations leave you more yourself, more expanded, more certain of who you are. I want to tell you about someone I will not name, because the details are specific enough that a name is not needed. A man, 48 years old, 3 years out of a marriage that had taken almost everything from him. He had stopped looking, not in bitterness, in exhaustion. He had decided that his season of love was behind him, and he was learning to live with that. He began applying the frequency audit not because he believed it would lead to love, but because he recognized that something in him was still blocked, and he wanted to be free of it, whatever came next. He worked with the recognition protocol as a daily practice of attention, not as a romantic strategy. And 14 months later, not through any deliberate search, not through any positioning or planning, he met someone in a space entirely unrelated to romance, a woman 10 years younger, a woman whose first conversation with him did not feel like a beginning. It felt like a recognition of something that had always existed, now finally being spoken aloud. He said this afterward. He said, "I was not searching for someone to love me. I became someone the right person could recognize. And one day, without any warning, she recognized me. Now I am coming back to what I promised. The recognition, frequency. There is a specific state of the brain studied by neuroscientists at Princeton, at MIT, at Harvard and Stanford that researchers identified as the frequency most associated with deep perception, with pattern recognition, with the kind of intuition that allows us to know something is true before we can explain why. Scientists call this the gamma state, gamma brainwaves. Here is what most people do not know. Every child is born with gamma operating at full power. That is why children can sense immediately whether a person is safe or not, without a single word being exchanged. That is why young people in early love feel the recognition of the right person so viscerally, because gamma is still fully active. But researchers found something that changes everything about how we understand relationship failure. Starting around the age of 7, through the pressure and noise and conditioning of modern life, gamma begins to suppress, slowly, year by year. And when gamma is suppressed, something specific happens to how we navigate love. We start to mistake the familiar for the right. We choose based on what feels known, rather than what is actually aligned. We can walk past the right person entirely because we are no longer perceiving at the depth their presence is offering. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years researching exactly this. And what he developed through the studies of those institutions, through 3 decades of work, is a 7-minute audio track using brain entrainment technology. A process in which specific sound frequencies are embedded in the audio and directly reactivate the gamma state in the listener. Not after months of practice. In the listening itself. I want to be clear about what I am presenting. This is not a product in the way most things are products. It is a recalibration tool. Something that addresses the specific barrier I have just described, the suppression of the frequency you need in order to recognize who is right for you when they arrive. Think of your perception like a radio that has been stuck on a channel that picks up mostly the old story. The genius song the name Dr. Lake gave this work moves the dial. It restores the gamma channel. It brings back online the frequency your spirit needs to do what it was designed to do, recognize. Before this technology existed in this form, people paid $300 per hour for biofeedback therapy sessions just to attempt to reach the gamma state. Home equipment for the same purpose runs close to $7,000. Dr. Lake compressed 34 years of research into a 7-minute audio you can use at home. The original price is $49, but because he wanted this to reach the people who actually need it, not only those who can afford every option, there is a specific price available for people watching this message, $39. Available only through the link in the description of this video and in the pinned comment, not on Amazon, not anywhere else. With it you receive 4 additional tools at no added cost. An audio track called Genius Child, designed to activate focus and confidence in children. A classic book that directly inspired The Secret, available for $20 on its own, included free. A guided visualization covering 4 areas of life: love, provision, purpose, and peace. And an infographic of the 5 most important habits for building the life you were meant to live. Everything carries a full money-back guarantee. Unlimited uses. Before you decide. If you feel nothing different, you owe nothing. One thing I need to say clearly. There are websites imitating this product that do not contain the actual brain entrainment technology. They carry the name, but not the science. What they offer is ordinary audio without the embedded frequencies. The only way to receive the verified original with the actual technology, the 4 bonuses, and the guarantee intact is through the link in the description of this video and the pinned comment. Please do not search elsewhere. What you will find will not be the same thing. If your spirit resonates with what I have described, if something in you recognizes that this is part of what this season has been preparing you for, the information is there for you. Investigate only if you feel led. Now, before we close, I want to take you somewhere, and this requires nothing of you physically, only your attention, right where you are. In your mind, I want you to imagine a threshold, not a dramatic one, a simple doorway, and on one side of that doorway is everything the old story told you about your love life, all of it. The ones who did not stay, the seasons that went on too long, the version of yourself that quietly stopped asking, all of it on one side. And on the other side, the side the doorway is opening toward, is someone who does not yet know your whole history. Someone who sees you the way new eyes see, with full attention, without the filters of everything that came before. Someone whose spirit was calibrated to recognize exactly who you are, not who you were. Not who you hope to become, who you are right now, in this season, in this specific becoming. In your mind, take one step toward that doorway. Not through it yet, just toward it. Just close enough to feel that the door is real, that it is already open, that something on the other side already knows your name. That step is enough. That is not imagination. That is your spirit practicing the posture of receiving. Now let me speak something over you as we close this message, because there are things that need to be spoken aloud over your life today. You are the wounded healer, the one who has walked through the exact fire that will allow you to reach someone who does not yet have language for what they carry and whose presence alone will make them feel finally found. You are the seer, the one whose sensitivity, which the world sometimes called too much, is actually the gift of perceiving depth when it arrives, of knowing the real thing when it is standing in front of you. You are the sacred worshipper, the one whose love, when it is finally given to the right person, will be so sincere and so complete that they will feel, for the first time, what it means to be fully seen. And you are the bridge, the one who has walked through enough of both worlds, enough darkness and enough light, to become the connection between what was and what is coming. This is who was formed in the wilderness. This is who is standing at the threshold. This is who is ready. And I hear the Father speaking the last word over this message. I hear him saying, "When I said ready for a new wife, I did not mean ready for a transaction. I did not mean ready for a logical arrangement or a convenient pairing. I meant ready to receive someone who will recognize the God in you, not the version you perform, not the face you show the world. The version I see when no one else is watching. The version that prayed in the dark. The version that kept the question open when closing it would have been easier. That version. That is who they are coming for. And I have been preparing them for exactly that. This is not a season of searching. It is a season of receiving, of standing at the threshold and trusting that what is coming already knows the way to you. You were proven in the private. The public embrace has already been declared. Go forward and know that what is coming is the exact shape of what you asked for and then some.